Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new, welcome to Leisure Gaming. I am Leisure. Kashtira has released last Thursday and they have infected every deck on the ladder. Even with Kashtira not at full power, a pure Kashtira deck is still pretty strong with the ability to not only lock your opponent's field, but also banish cards from the main deck and also from the extra deck. So I'm going to showcase two versions of this deck, the first being a pure Kashtira deck that most people are using right now to lock the opponent's fields for a first turn kill, and then the one that I'm going to be primarily using while climbing the ladder. So if you're like me and this is your first experience with Kashtira, or you just haven't been able to pull any Kashtiras due to horrible luck, or you've just been living under a rock, let's just go through what the cards do. First up is Kashtira Runick. If you control a Kashtira monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except XZ monsters. During your main phase, if this card is normal or special summon this turn, you can banish one Kashtira card from your deck except Kashtira Runick and banish the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck face down. If you banish any of these, this card's level becomes 7. Next is Kashtira Fenrir, which is going to be one of the most important cards for the deck. If you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. During the main phase, you can add one Kashtira monster from your deck to your hand, which is probably going to be your Runick. When this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls and banish it face down. Next is another very important card, Kashtira Unicorn. If you control no monsters, once again, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use each of the following effects of Kashtira Unicorn once per turn. During your main phase, you can add one Kashtira spell from your deck to your hand, and that spell is always going to be Kashtira Birth. When this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can look at your opponent's extra deck, and if you do, banish one monster from it face down. Next up is Kashtira Ogre, and once again, you can special summon this card from your hand as long as you have no monsters on the field. You can only use the effect once per turn. During your main phase, you can add one Kashtira Trap from your deck to your hand, and that is going to be Kashtira Preparations. When this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, you can excavate up to 5 cards from the top of your opponent's deck, banish one card face down, and place the rest on top of the deck in the same order. So these are going to be your 4 main monsters until we get the rest later on. Next is Kashtira Birth. You can normal summon level 7 monsters without tributing, and this is all level 7 monsters. During your main phase, you can special summon one of your non-XZ Kashtira monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. If your opponent activates a spell card or effect and you control a Kashtira monster, you can target 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard and banish them face down. Next is Kashtira Preparations. During either player's turn, you can special summon one of your Kashtira monsters that is banished or in your hand. If your opponent activates a trap card or effect while you control a Kashtira monster and this card is already face up in your spell and trap zone, you can look at your opponent's hand, and if you do, banish one card from it face down. Next is Kashtira Shangri-La, which is the current boss monster for Kashtira. During each standby phase, you can special summon one Kashtira monster from your deck. You can only use each effect of Kashtira Shangri-La once per turn. Each time a card or cards your opponent owns and possesses is banished face down, you can choose one unused main monster zone or spell and trap zone. It cannot be used while this monster is face up on the field. If this card on the field will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach one material from this card instead. So these are the current Kashtira cards, and that's what they do. So let's just go into the deck list to see what everyone is playing. So here you go, guys. This is what a pure Kashtira deck is going to look like, plus or minus some variant cards such as Nibiru or Lava Golem. We have 3 Max C, 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Kashtira Runick, and some people do run this at 2, but I think having this at 3 works out really well. Next up are 2 Dimension Shifters, and this is a great card in the Kashtira deck because Kashtiras don't mind being removed from play because Kashtira Birth will just bring them back. This is also a great card to combat your opponent's Max C, along with shutting down your opponent who might be primarily trying to use the graveyard as a resource like tier limits. Next are 2 The Ascendant of Thunder. You can definitely put this at 3. You can special summon this card from your hand by paying 3,000 life points. If this card is summoned this way and its owner's control is destroyed by an opponent's card by battle or card effect, you gain 5,000 life points. Now this is a really great card to have as well in the Kashtira because it's a level 7 that you can special summon, and you can get into your rank 7 plays a lot faster if you don't have another way to do so. Of course, we have the 2 Kashtira Fenrir, 3 Kashtira Unicorn, and 3 Kashtira Ogre. Going on to spells, we have 1 Raigeki to clear out your opponent's monsters, especially if they're playing a mirror match and you definitely need to clear the field. This is a great way to do so. We have 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, once again, to clear out your opponent's backfield. Next are 2 Pot of Extravagance, and you could definitely run this at 3 if you prefer. I like having it at 2 because my luck is very horrible, and I feel like if I ran this at 3, I would just never have any cards in my extra deck. Next is one Lightning Storm to also help clear out not only your opponent's backfield, but you can also clear off your opponent's attack position monsters. One Triple Tactics Talent, one Pot of Prosperity, 3 Kashtira Bursts, 2 Call by the Grave. Going on to the traps, we have 3 Evenly Matched, and I've seen this card played a lot more now that Kashtira has been released. At least for me, I seem to run into every other deck playing this card. Next are 3 Infinite Impermanents and 1 Kashtira Preparations. Going into the extra deck, we have 1 Baron de Fleur, and you'll definitely make this by using any of the level 7s that you have in your deck, along with 1 Ash Blossom. Next up, we have 1 number 11 Big Eye. You could definitely run this at 2 if you can find some room for it. This is a great card to have, especially during the mirror match. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 monster your opponent controls, take control of that monster, and this card cannot attack the turn this effect is activated. Now when you take control of that monster, it is a permanent take. 1 Mecha Phantom Beast Dracosack. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card and special summon 2 tokens. While you control a token, this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect. Once per turn, you contribute 1 token, then target 1 card on the field and destroy that target. This card cannot attack during the turn this effect was activated. 1 number 74 Master of Blades. When a card or effect is activated that targets this face-up card, you can detach 1 material from this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then you can destroy 1 card on the field. Next is 1 Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. Cannot be destroyed by card effects while this has material. While this card has material, each time your opponent activates a card or effect, inflict 500 damage to your opponent immediately after it resolves. Next are 2 number 89 Diablosis the Mind Hacker. Now this may not be a Kashtira monster, but this is also a really great boss monster for Kashtira decks. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, look at your opponent's extra deck, and banish 1 monster from it face down. At the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed a monster by battle, you could target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it face down. If a card your opponent owns and possesses is banished face down while you control this card, you can banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down equal to their face down banished cards. So it just mills your opponent's deck very quickly. Next we have 1 Dark Arm the Dragon of Annihilation. Once per turn, if you have exactly 5 dark monsters in your graveyard, you can also XZ summon this card by using 1 level 5 or higher dark dragon monster you control as material. You can detach 1 material from this card, then target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy it, then banish 1 card from your graveyard. Also this card cannot attack for the rest of the turn. Next we have 1 Divine Arsenal AA Zeus, and this is a great card to have in this deck because it's all XC, so you can XC summon into this very quickly, and it is also a great card to have in the mirror match or pretty much any match because you will clear out your opponent's field and make them start from scratch. Next is 1 Nightmare Phoenix so that way you can destroy your opponent's spells and traps. Next we have 1 IP Masquerena and 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Now just to mention one other card, Donner Dagger for Hire. You can target 1 monster for hire you control and 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy them. You can tribute 1 monster, special summon 1 monster for hire from your hand or graveyard with a different original name than the tributed monster. Then if you tributed a link monster to activate this effect, you can special summon 1 more such monster. You only use 1 Donner Dagger for Hire effect per turn and only once that turn. Now you may not be using this for the effect, but you're definitely going to try to use it if your opponent special summons Ibli on your side of the field. So this is a great way to get rid of Ibli off of your side of the field so that way you're not locked. So now that we've gone over what the basic deck profile is going to be for Kashtira, let me go ahead and show you the way that I prefer running Kashtira. That's right, it is Runick Kashtira, and this is based off of Shangpin, who took 3rd place at the YCS in LA. This is how I prefer to play this because the Runick cards are really great to give your Kashtira some support. Even though the Runick cards do not banish face down, they allow me to scout ahead so that way I'll know if I have to concentrate on locking out my opponent's monster zone or locking out my opponent's spell and trap zones. So that's it for the deck profile for Kashtira. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. I know a lot of you are looking at this Runick Kashtira saying that this is probably even more toxic than just pure Kashtira. Let me know in the comments below how you guys are using Kashtira. Also, with the upcoming event of Light versus Dark, which team are you guys going to be on? And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Later.